Good morning, sports fans, and welcome to the morning edition of ESPN 9, The Nacho, which covers all of the world's least important sporting events. And we start off with our exclusive coverage of the Goodell Hunting Fantasy Football League. We do have a suggestion from one of the league's members to change that name to Sudden and Abrupt Wetness, which is a reference to Jake Moore's recent waterbed videos. He has now posted 2 of him walking in the rain. Apparently, he thinks walking in the rain is a waterbed, and I want to remind everybody, a waterbed at worst is you pouring a glass of water on top of your head, but it should really be someone else throwing a glass of water into your face, or even better, spraying you with a hose, a big bucket of water, something. It needs to be better than just strolling in the rain. So Jake, we need you to pull it together. It's pretty embarrassing that you've now not tried this just once, but twice of you just standing in the rain. I know you have a girlfriend, Zoe, and I'm sure she would love to throw water in your face, as would anybody in this league. So please just try and enlist her help, because seriously, you need to do better than that. That suggestion was, of course, brought to you by Kyle, who did get our weekly winner this week. So he has $50 sitting in his Venmo account right now, and that was against Luna, who now falls to 1-5 on the season and is sitting in 11th place with only Dayman behind him, our good friend Nathan. Lamar Jackson, his quarterback, had a pretty quiet night in a big win against the Chargers, 34-6 win. So he didn't really have to do too much. He had 167 yards passing and a touchdown, and of course he got over 50 yards rushing, but not that many points. Dalvin Cooks is, as usual, Luna's big player, who got him 140 yards rushing and a touchdown. And then Damian Harris for the New England Patriots had a pretty good game himself, over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. Greg the Leg had some problems at the beginning of the season, but he is showing why his nickname is the Leg. He got 3 field goals and 2 extra points for 13 points. The Bills defense had a rough game against the Titans and didn't do too much, got him -1. If you look at his receivers, his tight end did pretty well, Gesicki, with 15 yards. He did start Michael Pittman Jr., who you may not know who that is. He comes from a rather obscure team, a little-known team, the Indianapolis Colts, who no one quite knows what their deal is. I believe they did have one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, Peyton Manning, until he grew up to be a Bronco, as all good Colts do. But now they've got, I'm not sure if it's Wentz starting or what's going on over there, but he only got them got Danny 35 yards and 2 receptions. We look over at Kyle, and Kyle did start Tannehill, a bit of a risky maneuver. They did get the win against Buffalo, but he only got 216 pass yards and a rushing touchdown, no passing touchdowns, and an interception. DK Metcalf has been very quiet ever since Russell Wilson went out to injury, and he actually got in a bit of a feud on Twitter with the great Bronco Shannon Sharp, who reminded Metcalf that he's got a couple Super Bowl rings, so maybe he should shut his mouth. And Metcalf doubled down, but I guess now he's being a little more quiet on that end. Looking at Kyle's stars who got him that weekly winner, of course, we go to King Henry. 3 rushing touchdowns, 143 yards, and everybody in the league is just wondering, when is this man going to slow down? Robinson is finally getting some love shown to him from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer is realizing that he's got a pretty good running back on his team. Got himself 100 yards from scrimmage and a rushing touchdown. Damian Williams showing up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. 2 rushing touchdowns, 62 yards, and 27 yards receiving. And then, of course, Waddle. To be honest, I've never even heard of this guy, but he did have himself a game. 2 receiving touchdowns and 70 yards. So congratulations to Kyle for that weekly winner. We'll move on now down to last week's weekly winner, who, with the Chargers having such a rough game, really showed that if he doesn't have Herbie going, he doesn't have much going. Justin Herbert, 195 yards, and a passing touchdown, but only 16.4 points. Tyreek Hill had himself a good night. with 76 yards receiving and a touchdown for 21 points. And then Mark Andrews, not as good of a game as last week, but still a great game with his own a touchdown of his own. Emmanuel Sanders looking like the man of old that he was when he was on the Broncos, getting receiving yards from Josh Allen throwing to him, 13 points. But Marquise Brown, not a whole lot there for Hollywood Brown, not a whole lot there for Austin Eckler, just a fairly quiet night on Andrew's team. We look over at, who is he playing? Oh, there we go, Jack. We look over at Jack's team, Mahomes. He's been struggling lately. He's still an amazing quarterback, but 2 interceptions. I believe he's thrown more interceptions through the beginning of this year than he did all of last year already. So he might have a long year ahead of him. He still got over 30 points, so not much to sneeze at fantasy-wise, and he got the win, but still 2 interceptions against that Washington football team. Another Herbert sitting there. Not sure who this guy is either. Maybe I need to pay attention to sports a bit more if I'm going to be hosting a sports TV show, or what do you call this? It's not quite a podcast, a internet streaming service, whatever. But Herbert got himself 97 yards and a rushing touchdown with David Montgomery off to injury. And then Deontay Johnson, 17.2 yards, really helped him out there at the end of the week there, but 121 points to 103. Andrew gets his second loss in the season, and Jack just keeps rolling. He's not scoring big numbers, but he's getting enough to win, and really that's what matters in fantasy. Unless he's going to be tied with a bunch of people at the end, and those low winning scores are going to hurt him, he's really rolling into having himself a good playoff position. Moving on down, we will look at Manny getting his 3rd win of the season against Farfy, who gets her 3rd loss. They now both sit at 3-3 and are in 8th and 9th positions, respectively. Manny kept in Dak Prescott. He was questionable, but he still got him 36.7 points, 3 passing touchdowns, 445 yards on 36 completions. A great game by Dak. Fournette is now proving to be the man in Tampa Bay on the rushing side of things. Ronald Jones just never recovered from that fumble in the first game. But Fournette, 2 rushing touchdowns, 81 yards rushing, 46 yards receiving, 33.9 points. Really helped Manny out there. Of course, having Arizona against Cleveland when you've got both Chubb already out, Hunt goes down to injury. Arizona's able to get 2 fumble recoveries and an interception, 5 sacks, and they got them 14 points against the Browns. Looking at the rest of his team, DeAndre Hopkins still showing why he's a great receiver, although he's not doing quite as well as many of us expected him to do, but 20.5 points on the night, only 55 yards receiving, but he got 2 touchdowns to really help him out there. Moving over to Farfy, Jalen Hurts has really been helping her out this season. Over 30 points for him, 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown, over 115 yards passing. Not a lot of passing yards, but still pretty good. CeeDee Lamb really was getting those passes from Dak. Got himself 149 yards and 2 reception touchdowns. Unfortunately for Farfy, both of those came to her opponent's quarterback, so didn't help her out as much as she had hoped. The rest of her team pretty quiet. Justin Jefferson not meeting his projections, as the rest of her team wasn't either. And Jonnu Smith, only 1 reception for 9 yards. Got to get more out of your tight end if you're going to get a win. Moving on, we have Jake was fighting for that weekly winner, but did not quite get it. Aaron Rodgers has been having himself another season. 195 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. He's getting kind of old for those rushing touchdowns, but he's still getting them. They get the win over Chicago. Adam Thielen, every year this guy gets counted out, and every year he looks good. Adam Thielen, 126 yards receiving and a touchdown. And then looking down, Cooper Kupp, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns for 33 points. And of course, if you've got a team you want to start a defense against, it's probably the Giants. And Jake made a good move there, picking up the Rams, 3 interceptions, 4 sacks, and a fumble recovery. Really killed it on that one. Looking over at Nate, Nate had a pretty good game, not going to lie. Matthew Stafford, 35 points, 4 passing touchdowns, and 251 yards. Mike Evans, though, very quiet on the night, only 2 receptions. And then Jerick McKinnon, Nate thought he would start him with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out, but unfortunately he did not get the bulk of those rushes. He only got 10 rushing yards and 1 reception. Noah Fant, though, really looking good, looking like the tight end we all hoped he would. They lost to the Raiders, but he almost got himself 100 yards and a touchdown. And then Josh Jacobs against the Broncos, same game, 1 rushing touchdown, almost 100 yards from scrimmage. Well, I guess it's more like, 84, 82, either way. And then Matt Prater. I remember that old SNL where Jesus said, everybody prays to me, but I pray to Prater. Well, Prater's still looking good. 2 field goals for 30 to 39 yards and 1 more for 50 plus 4 extra points made. The Tampa Bay defense not quite as good against the Eagles as he had hoped, but he didn't get the win out of this one. It hurts when you go against the second highest scorer in the week, but that's just how it works sometimes. Nate is sitting in last place, 1-5. He's hoping to get another one soon. And you can see he did make some move this week, so he is still really working on getting those wins. But and he outscored several people in the league, but just not the one who mattered. Moving on down, Penny got herself another loss. She started off so strong, but that's a few losses in a row right now. She is sitting at 2-4, while her opponent Morgan 4-2. He is the current league champion. We'll start off with Penny. Kirk Cousins, 37.5 points. I told her to pick him up, and I made a good recommendation. He got himself 3 passing touchdowns, 373 yards, 33 completions. He's looking pretty good. Jonathan Taylor from that lowly Colts team did get himself 33.2 points. I should really mention the Colts did get the win, but it was against the Houston Texans, which is really like playing a D3 college team at this point, so it doesn't really mean anything. But Jonathan Taylor, 145 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, looking really good. Kareem Hunt, this is going to hurt for Penny. He got injured. He's now 12.7 points on the night, but he's going to be out, and it looks like it's going to be for a couple of weeks. Her bench, she does have a couple people that she could probably sub in there. She's got Antonio Gibson, who is sitting in her flex, and then Michael Carter maybe. But either way, Kareem Hunt was really helping her out on this season. Her big mistake here, though, was starting the Denver defense. I thought they were going to get the win against the Raiders. A lot of people did, but they did not. -5 points, only 2 sacks. They allowed more than 400 yards and more than 28 points. Really, really a bad night for the Broncos defense there. And they are paid a lot of money, so they need to pull it together. Of course, she's got Godwin and Cooper, both great receivers, but they did not do too much. Unfortunately, she's got a big problem because she's got both Godwin and Antonio Brown. Do you want to start 2 receivers from the same team? Maybe not, but which one do you start? Unfortunately for her, Godwin only 43 yards receiving, while Antonio Brown 93 yards and a touchdown. So clearly she chose the wrong person this time. Maybe she should make a trade with somebody. I am available for one of those players so that she doesn't have to make that tough decision every night. Josh Allen having himself a real good season. He did get the loss, but he still had 3 passing touchdowns, 353 yards for 39.62 points. Doing really well. And, of course, Morgan is doing the stack with Stephon Diggs, 89 yards receiving and a touchdown, also looking great. Aaron Jones, 76 yards rushing and a reception touchdown, 34 receiving yards. So he's got 110 yards from scrimmage. Also had a good night. And then everybody else was pretty good, but really the defense, those lowly Colts against the D3 Texans got him 13 points, so that really helped out. And on to your, as usual, game of the week. It's always going to be a game of the week when your host is in that game. I got the win against Caroline. Caroline's vaunted team down to 3-3 at this point. I move up to 3-3. We are both barely sitting in playoff positions. Carolina in 5th. I'm in 6th. I started Heineke. It's been really tough for me to figure out who to start over Russell Wilson, and I don't think I made the right choice this time. 182 pass yards and a touchdown, but only 13.68 points. Tyler Lockett also, I was doing the stack with Wilson and Lockett. Looked good at the start of the season, but with Wilson out, Lockett only got 5.5 points. Really struggling there. Luckily for me, I had Joe Mixon sitting there, 30 points, 94 rush yards, 59 receiving yards, and a reception touchdown. Darrell Henderson, again, thank you for everybody who turned down that trade offer I made at the beginning of the season. 78 rush yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Cortland Sutton, one of the bright spots of that Broncos offense, 94 reception yards, 1 reception touchdown. And then Zeke, I've got him in my flex, and it was purely because of the time he played. But 69 rush yards, 50 receiving yards. Didn't get a touchdown, but still got me over 20 points. Looking over at Caroline, Kyler Murray is really one of the big reasons that she has such a great team. 4 passing touchdowns, 229 pass yards, unfortunately 4 fumbles, and that might have actually cost her the game on this one. That Baby Yoda, you can't fumble it 4 times. I mean, that's a lot. Najee Harris has been really a bright spot for that Steelers offense. 81 rush yards, 1 reception touchdown, 46 receiving yards. And that was the game against Seattle, so I was really biting my nails watching Najee Harris out there. Travis Kelce, of course, having a good season, but not quite meeting his projections. And then Marvin Jones Jr., Marvin the Martian, 100 reception yards and a touchdown. He is just having himself a pretty good season, but unfortunately, Caroline could not quite pull out the win. Let's just look at the standings real quick. We've got in the Grand North, Jack in first place, 5-1. He's going to be hard to catch up to, but there's a lot of season left with that extra game that the NFL tacked on. Me and Manny tied with 3-3, and Penny has moved down into 4th place in the division, 10th place in the league with 2-4. Francophone South, Kyle and Caroline are sitting comfortably in 1-2 in the Francophone South because Danny and Nate are just the bottom 2. So they've got a pretty strong division with those top 2, but those bottom 2 are really bringing that whole division down. The most even division right now are the Anglophones. We've got 2 people sitting at 4-2, 2 at 3-3, so they're really kind of eating the rest of the division, the league alive. We will see what happens when they start playing each other a little bit more. But things are starting to shape up. I encourage everybody to be looking at those trades, especially with me, and thank you for having a great season so far. From ESPN 9 The Nacho, this is Graham Button coming at you with another weekly recap, and I look forward to beating whoever I'm playing this week. Let's actually take a look at who that is, because I forgot to say the words water bet. Kyle, I will say the words water bet. As you can see, I am projected to lose by a lot, but I'm still going to challenge you to a water bet. So good luck, everybody, and from ESPN 9 The Nacho, this is Graham Button signing off.